Retro Hangover is supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarns, Tony G, It's a Me Ferrario, Stud Still Smash the Milkman, Lucas from Game Over Hell, Randall Quiggle, Raging Demon from Command List, Poppy the Masked Keaton, JC, Ozzy Garcia, Megan Caruso, Retro Overdrive, Dave Jackson from Tales from the Backlog, Soha, the Emperor, Storm Beagle, and Captain N from Retrotopia, Matt, aka Stormageddon, from Fun and Games and Reignite Podcasts, Van Fernal from Van Fernal's Retro Stream, Ryan, Keith Gasper from the Main Quest Podcast, Rick Firestone from Pixel Project Radio, Eric Guess from Unlockables, Ash Event, Mike the Ref from Backbreaker Gaming, Alan Bingham from Saxbit, Alt, Low5 Alex from Low5 Gaming, B Ross from Super Garbage Day, Oh Me, Sega Boy 7, Jared Breland, Riskel, Adam R, and Super Dave from the Anime Field Guide. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
Retro and classic gamers, welcome to the podcast where we grandly grade gradient gorgeousness. This is Retro Hangover. I am your co-host Chris Copleen with special guests, game development veteran and 3D artist Kiyoshi Okuma, and senior game designer, eSports personality, Nintendo and Sega World Champion, and voice of the classic Tetris World Championship, Cris Tang.
Boom, Tetris for you.
Yes. And as always, your host, Shane. Laser Dick Option
I will have you know that when it comes to the Dick Dragon, the laser is not optional.
That's what you think. Sometimes you need a double.
I mean,
that's true.
Then you just add another. I mean, no. I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly.
Sometimes you need to aim for the top and the bottom.
Just you gotta make sure that you're hitting all the right spots.
Well, yeah, it's called strategy. Welcome to the Retro Hangover podcast, everyone. We are covering one of the probably most important shooters, maybe video games of all time. We'll get into that discussion, I'm sure. But we are joined by some fantastic guests today. People that are always in our Discord community. You remember him from the Gauntlet Legends episode. He's terrorizing everyone in our shooter high score challenges, so we needed to have him on here. It's Kiyoshi Okuma. Welcome back to the show, Kiyoshi. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on yet again.
Absolutely. So happy to have you back on. And a bit of a legend in the Discord community, if you pay attention to what Kiyoshi says, which I do. So when he asked if it was okay, what was it? How did this happen? He said you brought him up and I'm like, well, if he wants to be on the show, then have him come by, and you said he is, but so happy. Yeah, he was interested. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I'm honored to have him on the show today. It is Cris Tang. Welcome to the show, Cris.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. It came about, he said he was going to be on a podcast talking about Gradius, and I had just written a magazine article about it, which is strange because this is I had, they were bringing up the best, most influential games of all time for the 50th issue, and I was like, okay, what am I going to write about? And Gradius was just like the first thing on my mind, so I wrote my piece about that, and then I did a secondary one on Double Dragon. But yeah, the Gradius one was definitely the one I put the heart and effort into, because that was just such an influential game on me and on games in general. So having that come up and to be able to talk about it live it was an amazing coincidence, and I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Can you say which magazine?
Yes, Old School Gamer magazine.
Okay.
It's a print magazine. Probably one of the only ones. It might be the only one in this country. I'm not sure. But yeah, we do a lot of retro games, and I've been writing for them for, I think like 4 years now. It's like my 22nd issue, so I've been doing it for a while, and I really love it, and I think your audience would love it too. So yeah, Old School Gamer magazine. Check it out.
Yeah, definitely go check that out. Early plugging. I love it. We're getting the plug in early, but I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
But yeah, it mostly came up because I'm good friends with Cris and Chris Tang, and also Cris, but yeah, it came up because I was like, well, I always talk to Chris Tang about Gradius, so I'm like, and he's a huge fan of that series, and we always have discussions about it, especially about number 5, because we have differing opinions sometimes. But no, I was like instantly like, if anybody's going to be on this show, it should be him.
That's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to the discussion here. You've brought up a lot of his accomplishments in the past, and I might pick his brain a little bit about that. Actually, I'll get to that right now. Gauntlet 4.
Yes.
I told you I'd throw it at you. I heard you were responsible for making the game good.
Yeah, actually, overall, you might be able to say that. I'll do a quick breakdown of the story. And from my point of view, it was like, I was working at Tengen. I was a product development consultant. We'd get games in. Tengen was a huge publisher for the Genesis. So everybody would send us their games, because if they got published by us, they would do very well. They would sell a lot of copies of it. We had a division in Japan, Tengen Japan, and they would send us stuff that either they developed or other stuff that I would find out later. And one day we got a version of Gauntlet in, and it was just Gauntlet 1, like the arcade version, kind of ported to the Genesis. It just ran, and it wasn't like a complete game yet, but it was like a very good tech demo of the arcade game. And, for a 1985 arcade game running on 1993, running on a 1990 hardware in 1993, it wasn't that impressive, because the Nintendo version, had an ending, and it had bosses, and it had a password save system, and Gauntlet had come a little further since then. This was just the arcade game, and getting that on a Genesis was impressive, but it wasn't a complete game. So I wrote a document that outlined like what should be done to make the game marketable and appealing in the year 1993. And since I was really into RPGs and things like Ys and Phantasy Star and things like that, I wanted there to be more of an RPG quest mode kind of game in it. I was like, okay, turn your score into experience points, and give yourself or give the players some weapon upgrades, shops, give it elemental dungeons and a storyline and bosses and an ending and just all sorts of this huge wish list, right? That I was like, I don't know, like maybe 14 years old at the time or something. I was really young, so I would write this huge wish list and not thinking anything would happen from submitting such a lofty dream of, well, turn Gauntlet into this totally other game that was more than Gauntlet. Well, they took my report, or my management took the report, translated it into Japanese, and sent it back to Tengen Japan. And then I went back and, played all the other crappy games that would come through our office. And like 6 months later, we got a version in, and, it was another version of Gauntlet. I put it in. And then I saw something on the screen that said quest mode, and I'm like, what the hell? Did they actually put it in? And to my shock and awe, they actually did. It was like a scaled down version of what I had asked for. The only thing that wasn't in it was I wanted new character classes. Like I wanted like a ninja and I don't know, something else like a bombardier or some other crazy character classes. That wasn't in there, but everything else was. Instead of getting 100 levels, they gave us like 50 new dungeon levels with elemental themes and quest, and I had the shopkeepers. And the coolest thing that they did was that dungeon master voice that says like shot the food and all that.
Yes.
He has a voice that says welcome, right, when you start the game. Well, they pitched it up and played it at twice the sampling rate. And those, I think there's like a thief that comes out and steals your stuff. They turned the thief into a shopkeeper, and when you walk up to him and push the button, they pitched it up so it says "Welcome," like a chipmunk version of the dungeon master. And I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever.
So there you go. If you've played Gauntlet 4 and you really liked its RPG elements, you have him to thank for it. I guess, Shane, you could also thank him for essentially creating Diablo.
I was going to say that. I was like, I'm listening to his wish list and I'm like, so you wanted Diablo. Got it. Okay.
Well, it came out well before Diablo.
No, I know that.
One thing of note is the developer for Gauntlet 4 is M2.
Yes.
Yes.
And that was their first
That
title.
was their
correct, Chris?
entirely their first project. They weren't even, I don't even think they called themselves that back then. It was Ryoki Hori and I'm trying to remember the other guy's name, but yeah, the two guys, the graphics guy and the programmer were two guys in a garage. They ported Gauntlet to the X68000, but they couldn't sell the X68000 game to Tengen, so they ported it to the Mega Drive from the X68000 code. Sent it, they went to the Tengen Japan office, or maybe they sent it in. They probably went in person now that I think about it, because how else would you do something like that back then? And they didn't know what to do with it.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
So they sent it to Tengen America, and my boss, Bill Hindorf, got it, and he didn't know what to do with it. So then it ended up on my desk. So the cool thing about this is I had this huge wish list of things that I thought would make the game sellable in the US. They send this list back to Japan. These guys, M2, look at it, and they're like, this is what we need to do to sell the game. And then they just do it because they really, really wanted the gig. And that's just like the most blessed story in games that I've ever been involved in. And if you notice what M2 does to their games, they always put some extra crazy something in there. And I think Gauntlet 4 was the extra crazy something that they did first, and they learned from that. Mm-hmm. And as developers and people who love games, we really understand each other. We're really on the same page because the same things that they put into their games are the same things that I would wish for, like I did for Gauntlet, for every single game. Like putting Haya O as the extra boss in Space Harrier would have been one of them. Putting the voices back into the PC Engine Salamander or Life Force was another one. They did that too. And another one that was huge that I could see coming from years and years away, and I had they've kind of hinted at it in the interviews, was to make Space Harrier 2 actually good and put it in the engine of Space Harrier 1. And they did that on the Mega Drive Mini too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big difference. And actually, at the time of this recording, GameSack actually did more information about Space Harrier 2 and did comparison on that over on that YouTube channel. So if you don't know what GameSack is,
that
just came out at the time of this recording. So
nice.
You can go check out that video. It's at the towards the end of the video. Watch the whole thing though. I like GameSack. Joe's a good dude.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he likes me though, but I like him. He's cool.
Oh yeah, we're good friends with them too, and
we're good friends with Joe.
All of it. Yeah.
Also, one last thing I want to give you all the accolades here, Chris, while you're here on the show. Just want to say, if you're listening to this, if you played Capcom fighting games in the 90s, he was part of that as well. So he was probably part of a game you loved if you loved Capcom fighting games.
Yeah, everything between Street Fighter Alpha 3, Street Fighter 3, Marvel vs. Capcom 1, everything in that kind of PlayStation to Dreamcast era. I worked on all those, and when you beat each other up and you see the characters say something to each other on the screen, I wrote all those lines. So I wrote all the win quotes in that era.
So if someone out there, if you can make it inappropriate, go ahead and find it, and let's discuss victory lines. And see what's out there.
If you want to talk about inappropriate victory lines, my favorite one that I wrote is when Ken wins. I believe this is in Alpha 3.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I need a better workout than this. Where's Eliza? Now, that line was so good that in 2009, I think it was 2008, they made a new version of Street Fighter 2 called Street Fighter 2 HD Remix. I did not work on Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 came out in 91, and I didn't start working at Capcom until 97. So I wrote that for Street Fighter Alpha 3, and they put it back into Street Fighter 2. So if you play Street Fighter 2 HD Remix, on the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3, and you beat someone up with Ken, there's a good chance he'll say that.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I love that. I love talking to people that had some sort of impact on games I played as a kid. Thank you for that too. I appreciate that.
Oh. You're welcome.
All right. We've been talking a lot about games, and we will be talking about Gradius in a moment. Gradius, one of those two. It's
Gradius.
Like Gradius. Okay.
Yep.
It's like Darius and Darius. Also a shooter. We'd like to talk about
Rucker.
we'd like to talk about games that we have been playing lately. And as is customary, our guests get to go first. Kiyoshi, I've kind of chilled you out there in the corner for a little bit. So how about you let everyone know what games you've been playing lately?
Well, I've been very, very obsessed with Gran Turismo 7. It's like my fighting game now. Like I banned myself from playing fighting games because it was taking up too much time, but now I have Gran Turismo 7 and it's like almost the same, and I'm starting to kick myself over it, but I love Gran Turismo 7. I bought myself one of those expensive racing wheels and a VR2 setup, so it's like being in the car, driving whatever car you want. You can even you can sit in the car and look around like in, cars that cost millions of dollars. You can be like, ooh, what's it like to be in this car? What's it like to own a Bugatti Veyron, right? Like, so it's a completely different experience if you use the VR headset than if you don't. And I really recommend it if you ever get to try it. It's amazing. Other than that, I've been playing a bit of Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is the game of the month. Probably some of the best graphics on the N64, but some of the worst frame rates. Thank you, Rare. You're always pushing beyond the limit of the N64. But it's a cute game. It's funny. I never really played it that much back in the day, but I have a real copy of it now, so get to check that out.
I'll probably, if I get to that, I'll be using my flash drive. That's for sure. I'm not buying a physical copy of that game.
Oh, I didn't buy a physical copy either. My friend actually, thank you very much, my friend, gave me a copy because he was just clearing out his stuff. He didn't want it anymore.
Lucky.
So I paid $0 for Conker. I know that might upset some people, but
well, let them be upset. That's how the world works.
Yes. I mean, other people, come across stuff for free too. So
plenty of stuff I've come across for free, or $7. It's like a couple grand. All right, Cris, how about yourself? What games have you been playing lately?
Well, let's see. On a daily basis, I always fire up Helldivers 2. I do this thing where I bought the game twice on 2 different accounts, and I run 2 characters at the same time so I could dump twice as many stratagems on the enemy. It's a lot of fun. So I'll have like one character, and I'll have him like park in a safe spot. They'll just drop all the stratagems on the other character, and the other character will run around, and he'll get all the ones that do things in real time. Yeah, and I do that every day just to get the daily and just because I like blowing stuff up. It's a lot of fun to blow stuff up. So that's kind of like my daily thing. Recently, maybe in the last couple of months, I played Neo 3 and it was terrible because Neo 1 was like one of my favorite, maybe top 3 games of all time. But then they decided to go and make it open world, and it just like is terrible, and it has the worst like dubbing I've heard since the TurboGrafx 16.
Oh no!
Oh my gosh!
the thing that you could tell is that you have characters in a conversation, and each character will pronounce the same word in a different way. They have something called the Crucible, and another actor will call it the Crucible, and I'm just like, the Crucible? Why are you saying it that way?
Sean Connery.
I cannot take it seriously. It is so bad.
It's like Persona 1, where the people would call it Persona, and I'm like, how did you, what?
I'm here for that kind of voice acting. I love that kind of voice acting.
Oh yeah, I love the bad, cheesy voice acting. But the thing is, it used to not be bad, and then all of a sudden it just takes a quality dive. Like the last time I saw a quality dive like this was when I went from Ease 1 and 2 to Ease 3. Like that quality drop off is so insane. But yeah, it happened here in the modern day in 2026, and man, I don't know how they're going to recover from that. So I did not like Neo 3, but I really still like Neo 1. And I guess I played the Pragmata demo, and it's coming out in like, I don't know, like 5 days or something. It's coming out really soon. And apparently the embargo was lifted this morning. And I was going to go like play Helldivers 2 and then read the reviews. But I don't know, I got really tired and I wanted to be awake for this podcast. So I actually took a nap, and I have not read the Pragmata reviews yet. But if the reviews are good, I'll probably be getting that and be playing that in a few days.
I have seen they are extraordinary.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear.
Especially for a new IP. The ones I've seen so far are pretty like unbelievable. So there you go.
It's funny. I was not really that into the demo.
I thought it was
appealing.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't really like having this like barrier to like engaging with the enemy, I guess. I don't know.
We'll see. Maybe you'll be the contrarians here. Should be fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that it has potential, and I think that if they execute on it and they make it a lot of fun to mess with them that way, and you get good at doing it, it all has to do with balance and how well they execute on making it rewarding and satisfying. Just like
that's true.
Like the Gradius power-up system. They started off with like a certain version of it, and I guess they iterated it into what it became today. But maybe that first version of it is kind of like the demo in Pragmata. They could only show the first layer of it, and maybe it gets better as it goes along. And like, I think one thing that we didn't mention yet about the relationship between Kiyoshi and I is that we're developing a game together, and it has kind of like a real-time power-up system like Gradius as well, except I made improvements upon it. And we could be seeing that, across games. Like, Gradius has one, and our game has one. Pragmata has its own thing. And if you refine it enough and make it fun and compelling, it could be good. But yeah, when I played it in the demo, I wasn't particularly impressed by it. I was like, this isn't fun yet, but it could be if they really did more with it. So I guess we'll see.
And by the way, not to kiss your ass even more, but I promised Kiyoshi I would buy a copy of that game when it comes out and try to review it for this show. So I am looking forward to that. I won't speak for Shane because he's just going to be a grumpy cat and probably not, but I will do it. Yeah. Speaking of, hi Shane, welcome back to your show. What games have you been playing lately?
Oh, so actually I kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent because of one of the other games that we are going to be talking about shortly after this one. I picked up a couple of collections on Steam, even though I could emulate all of this stuff, but I don't know. I guess I wanted the bougie experience. Plus, you could get the arcade versions for Gradius and stuff like that. But I also picked up the Mega Man Legacy Collection. And in that, I got like the whole bundle because everything was on sale. So I got like all of the Mega Man shit on Steam, basically. That included the offline version of Mega Man X Dive, which started life as a free-to-play microtransaction hellhole on mobile. And you know what? As a standalone game, it's actually not too bad. Without the microtransaction garbage, like it's actually fun. So oddly enough, I've been putting a pretty decent chunk of time into playing that on my Steam Deck and kind of making progress through the levels in that one. I have other thoughts about other Rockman games that we'll be talking about, but for now, let's just leave it at that. But yeah, it's pretty much that. I got a couple of things I've been keeping up with on the old Android, such as it is. I'm still playing Ball Pit on there because it's good. It's real good.
Mm-hmm.
What was another one? I just grabbed this game called Abalon. It's like a top-down, dungeon crawly kind of roguelite, turn-based game. Which is
I don't know if you're into those kind of games, Shane.
I wasn't sure. I was kind of taking a little bit of a leap there, getting out of my comfort zone. Yeah, yeah. Turns out it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Got a bunch of different character classes you can unlock as you go, and loot and gear, and you can build up like a whole party along with you during your run, which all do different things. And yeah, it's pretty good. So and also bonus, it is portrait mode, which if you do mobile gaming at all, then you know that having something that's fully playable in portrait mode is nice when you're lazy like me. So yeah, I think that's about it for me right now. I don't know. What about you, Chris? What's been keeping you busy?
Well, it's been actually a while since we recorded in real life, because I did go out of town back to where I grew up. So that took me to the Galloping Ghost in Brookfield, which is right outside of Chicago. Now, I played a lot of games there, obviously. I only managed to beat 2, but such is the nature of arcades. I 1cc'd Soul Calibur 2, as Cervantes, and had a really good time with that. But I mean, it's Soul Calibur 2. You can pretty much, if you know certain button combinations, you can turn your brain off and win, which was why I love Soul Calibur. I really, I don't know how else to put it. And then me and my brother, by the way, we did run into guest on this show, member of our community, Keith from the Main Quest podcast. He joined me at the Galloping Ghost. So it was good to play some arcade games with him, grab some beers. It was a great time. But after he left and another one of my friends left, a childhood friend, Nick. So shout out to you if you're listening to this. I don't think he does, but in case you do, shout out to you. Myself and my brother finished, we played start to finish Golden Axe, The Revenge of Death Adder, which is incredible. That is such a good fucking game. It's so balanced.
I love the face melting.
Yes. There's so much good about that. Like every character has their own strengths. And I ended up being this like little elf looking shithead whose special move was that he could feed your party and they regained health instead of an attack. I was like, this is the most novel thing ever. I love this. This is like very smartly designed. One of the best beat 'em ups I've ever played. Golden Axe, The Revenge of Death Adder is incredible. And just to keep the streak alive, I beat some games on stream recently. One for the show, Mega Man X. Well, I'll talk about Mega Man X. I don't think it's any surprise how I feel about that game, but we'll go into detail about that in a few episodes, about a month from now, as you're listening to this. But also beat the Guardian Legend, which I talked about last time. Great game. I had so much fun with that. And
that's
very underrated. And the way that game unfolds and how it developed and how it actually balance the Blaster Master parts with the shooter parts, and how towards the end of the game, like the beginning of the game, the Blaster Master portions or top down shooty sections are easier. And when I say top down shooter, Blaster Master style, not like shooter like Gradius shooter, but then you go into a vertical shooter and that's really hard in the beginning, and that flips by the end, where like if you know what you're doing, the shooter areas become a cakewalk and you're like trying to run away from every enemy in sight during the top down sections as a character. But like I never had any questions about where I was supposed to go. Exploration was encouraged because there was always something to find if you went over every corner of the map. Oh man, I loved it. Such a great NES game. I had a blast with it. Compile, you're fantastic. I wish you didn't become Compile Heart and get absorbed into Idea Factory, if that is accurate, because
There's
you
still
make
pieces of them left.
Okay. I hope so. I hope. Well, I mean, M2 will probably remake all their games.
Yeah, the M2 connection is still there. They've been absorbing pieces of, Treasure and Compile and all that great stuff.
That would make a lot of sense based on some of the stuff they put out over the years, which is good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So that's what I've been up to, Shane. I've been having a blast. I was also playing Breath of Fire 3. Yep.
I should probably start doing that.
Yeah, you should. It's a 40-hour game. Have fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Great. Well, we are here to talk about a game, not Breath of Fire 3. That's later.
Yes.
But we are here to talk about Gradius, or Scramble 2, perhaps. So, Chris, would you mind giving the fine folks at home a brief history of Gradius?
Shooters. It's a genre we rarely cover here on the show, yet is absolutely core to the popularity and developmental progression of video games. Heck, the genre's arguable originator, Space Invaders, remains among the most important games in the medium's history. But eventually, the genre would evolve and take significant steps towards becoming something instantly recognizable. Just as Final Fight defined beat-em-ups, Street Fighter II defined fighting games, and Super Mario Bros. Defined the action platformer, today's game, Gradius, may very well be the definitive title for shooters. In 1983, the shooter genre found a new surge in popularity, at least in Japan, thanks to Namco's Xevious. Konami, a leader in the arcade market at the time, naturally wanted to compete for market share by creating their own entry in the genre. Despite the common perception of Konami today, their expectation back then was simple. Their version had to be better. Konami tapped Hiroyasu Machiguchi to lead development on what was intended to be a sequel to their 1981 release, Scramble, even giving it the working title Scramble 2. Development took an abnormal length of time for the era, lasting approximately 1 year. This was the first game Machiguchi's team had ever developed, and the novel ideas they were implementing led to some anxiety amongst the staff, slowing progress. Most notably, the team was building an entirely new power-up system, one that gave players choice over their ship's progression rather than simply having them pick up random items. The game also featured environmental set pieces, unique music for each level, and a proper ending, concepts that were incredibly rare for the mid-80s shooter genre. Developed and published by Konami, Gradius first hit Japanese arcades in May of 1985. Europe followed that September, while North America saw a December release with a slight difficulty boost. In both Western regions, the game was rebranded as Nemesis. The arcade version was a notable success, becoming the highest grossing cabinet in the United Kingdom for 1986 and the 5th highest in Japan that same year. However, the game found its true mainstream success on home consoles. It arrived on the Famicom in Japan on April 25th, 1986, and on the Nintendo Entertainment System in North America that December, eventually selling over 1 million copies in Japan alone. Nintendo of America also saw great success with the NES port via the Play Choice 10 well after the game's release, and a standalone arcade console version with the NES ROM called Versus Gradius, which actually came out before its home release. While official sales data for Western releases is scarce or non-existent, the game's ubiquity on the secondhand market today suggests that it sold incredibly well. Perhaps most famously, the home port of Gradius introduced a code that is forever etched into gaming history, the Konami code. By entering up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select, start, players received a full set of power-ups and a speed boost. This iconic sequence would go on to appear in countless other Konami games, sometimes granting extra lives and other times leading to sudden, cheeky death. Over the years, the legacy of Gradius and the popularity of the side-scrolling shooter has begun to wane. Yet, there is no doubt of its impact on the genre and the industry as a whole. It spawned a massive franchise with 4 mainline sequels, spin-offs like Salamander, and even the full-blown parody series Gradius. While the franchise is mostly dormant today, a new entry titled Salamander 3 was released as a part of the Gradius Origins collection in 2025 for contemporary platforms. And that is your brief history of Gradius.
All right. Thank you very much, Cris, for that brief history. You know what's funny is in kind of like digging around for, information for this episode, and I'm sure that with our illustrious guests with us here, they could probably jump into this even more than I possibly could, but I find it just really fascinating just how much of what we know about Gradius and how it plays and the mechanics of it really were shaped around the hardware constraints, like specifically the bubble system that they had going at the time.
Oh, the cabinet type, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Cris, Tang type, because I would not call myself Cris, I don't think. We're going to have fun with this the entire episode, by the way. You did do a brief write-up, like you said, for Old School Gamer magazine. I did give you the opportunity to read over this brief history to tell me how right or wrong I was. But is there anything you really want to add here or just kind of changed a little bit? Because I know you did some research on this. So anything interesting that you found?
I guess I'd like to emphasize that one of the big things in the mid-'80s when the Nintendo Entertainment System was released, the thing that struck me and made me really excited about the NES was that the Super Mario Brothers that was on it was just like the arcade. And that was like Super Mario Brothers that was the versus Super Mario Brothers. That was the only arcade version there was at the time. And Gradius was alongside that version of Super Mario Brothers in the same kind of cabinet. There were these black stand-ups that they would have. Sometimes they would have like a tennis and a golf next to each other, or they'd have a Super Mario Brothers and a Duck Hunt, or maybe Hogan's Alley or something next to it. And the other type of cabinet was this thing called the Red Tent. This thing that sells for like a couple $1,000s nowadays because everybody wants one that collects Nintendo stuff. And I would see Gradius in both the stand-up and the Red Tent, and I'd play it on both of those when it came out. And this was before the Nintendo game came out. So when I walked into the store and I saw Gradius hanging on that shelf, I understood what that was. I understood the parallel between seeing Super Mario Brothers and getting to play that at home, and then seeing Gradius and playing that in the Red Tent, what I would get at home if I bought that cartridge and brought it home. And I was in the store and I just started screaming. And I got it. I like instantly got it. And then I opened up the box and I pulled the cartridge out, and then I saw this stripe. And I had this red stripe that said over 1 million sold in Japan. And that was a very life-changing experience for me, because up until that point, I was kind of like in this bubble of like, okay, I go to the store and these are the games that are sold and these are the games I can get. But when I realized that there's another country where this game sold 1 million copies, that opened my mind to, well, if they sold 1 million copies in Japan, what are they playing it on? What is it like? And that got me going into the whole import thing, where I learned about the imports. And one of the first import games that I got that I coveted and I just thought was like the most amazing thing ever was, after I had gotten Life Force and after I'd gotten Gradius on Nintendo, Gradius 2 was on the Famicom. And there's a kid in school who had it, and he let me borrow it. And there's a whole other story to this, whereas that I had a test market Nintendo, and it could play bootleg games and games from Hong Kong and Japan, whatever, with those honeybee adapters and stuff. So I borrowed the Gradius 2, plugged it into one of those honeybee adapters that a friend gave me, and I was playing that like before almost anyone else in the U.S. was, because I lived in Hawaii, and they had a lot of Asian culture and a lot of family members for the kids that I was friends with who would bring stuff back. So Gradius 2 was a huge, huge game for me, and it never came out in the U.S., so it still strikes me as one of the most impactful games in becoming import literate in that era. And that all came from this spark that got ignited when I saw the Gradius cartridge for the first time, and it said 1 million sold in Japan.
I have a story about Gradius 2 being my Famicom white whale, because I really wanted that game.
Huh.
I don't know if you want me to talk about this right now, but
please do. I mean, we're in personal experiences. By the way, I just want to make a note. I did say Gradius about 3 different times, so I'm doing the Neo 3 thing for Chris Tang here today, just so he is aware. But
yeah, I got to see something called the Gradius 2 Bible, which is just like a strategy guide essentially for Gradius 2. On the Famicom, though. It wasn't the arcade game, it was the Famicom game. And I saw that way in advance of when I thought the game would come out. It was like slightly after I played Life Force on the NES. And Life Force was one of my favorite games on the NES at the time. And so I was super excited. Like, this Asian friend of mine had the Gradius 2 Bible, and I was like reading through that thing, like, obsessively. And it had like cute little artwork and some like flip book stuff in it and everything. It was like it's really cool. And I tracked it down and I own a copy of the Gradius 2 Bible now. But I was super bummed when Gradius 2 never actually came out in the US. I didn't understand why at the time. But it turns out that Konami, because of the Famicom not having the same manufacturing limits as the NES did, where the NES, like Nintendo, actually had to press the cartridges themselves for the US, whereas Konami could actually make their own chips in Japan and publish their own games that way. And so the Gradius 2 cart actually had, accelerator chips and stuff that Nintendo themselves didn't make. And so Nintendo couldn't put a game out that had those same chips unless they also wanted to reproduce those chips. And I guess they just didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a big problem with a lot of Konami games in some form or fashion. To some extent.
Yeah. I mean, especially like the later stuff. Yeah. Yeah, like we never got a copy of Lagrange Point.
No.
That was a real shame, because that game's pretty cool too. But yeah, like I tracked down a copy of Gradius 2 for Famicom and a copy of the Gradius 2 Bible, and now I'm like very satisfied with that I actually finally own those games, or in the game and the Bible.
That's awesome. And now like all that Gradius 2 is more available now too, that you have these Origin collections out there as well. Which
Well, yeah, but that's the arcade version.
oh,
Yeah,
they
I
don't
think
have they don't have the NES version on the Origin collection?
I don't believe so. No.
Oh,
No.
bastards.
Yeah, and I will note that in a lot of these games, Konami was like the master of taking an arcade game and making a home version of it, which had limitations, but they would make it different. And they'd make it different enough in good ways, like they'd make the playtime longer. They would redesign some of the levels. Some of the levels would even be homages to other games in their series. So you'd actually be getting a different game. So if you had a collection which had an arcade version, you would actually also want the home version because they were not the same game. They were two different products almost for a lot of these cases.
Especially Gradius 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like Salamander and Life Force are technically different games, but they're not.
Well, what happened with that one is Salamander in Japan was the game that came out first. And when we got Salamander, they had already started like making sort of like the Champion Edition or, kind of like the incremental upgrade to it. And some of those improvements got pushed into American Salamander, which was called Life Force. So our version of Salamander is called Life Force, but it has like the voices from Japanese Life Force, which is basically Salamander with the Gradius power-up system. A couple of the levels are a little bit different. They changed like the assets, like I guess the sprites are different on some of them, and some of them have different backgrounds, and some of the enemy patterns are different.
I think colors are different. A few sprites are different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it is significantly different enough to where you'd kind of want to play both just to see what they're like. But overall, the Life Force that we got here in the US in the arcades and on the NES is Japanese Salamander, but with better voices and different sprites. Like all three games actually have different sprite sets, but I think the best balance of them all is the American version. The North American version is my favorite version of that game. And a close second, I kind of like Japanese Life Force too because of the Gradius power system, but some of the, I guess you'd say the textures or, the color choices aren't as pleasing. Like their fire level is like dark blue, and I think the fire looks better as red. So that's my take on it.
Huh. Yeah, I need to get back to that Life Force again. Like, as Kiyoshi said, like Life Force is a game I played a lot I remember playing a lot as a kid. And Shane recently said that was one of the games that shaped his taste. Maybe we need to get that game sooner than later.
I think so too, because we're talking about Gradius, but Life Force is actually a much, much bigger game for me. That one just completely blew me away, and I've got stories about that one. So if you ever do a Life Force or Salamander, I mean, when they brought out Gradius Origins, I made Life Force 3 packaging for all that stuff. I made like a mini arcade cabinet. My Switch case is like this metallic version that says Life Force 3 on it and stuff like that. I'll show it to you guys later. But yeah, that game was hugely influential, I think, on all of us. So I think it probably deserves its own episode at some point.
I think that's going to happen next year now. That's going to happen early next year. Let's do that.
If we're not careful, this episode's just going to become a Life Force episode.
I know. I was really fighting the temptation, but I think we've got enough meat so that won't happen.
Yeah.
But the other game that I was playing besides Helldivers 2 regularly is I play Salamander 3, on the Gradius Origins collection. Basically, every time I have an excuse to test some new hardware, like I might have a new portable monitor or a new gamepad, I fire up the Salamander 3 just to play it, and I'll make like some new high score or something. I've just been playing it constantly since I got it.
Oh, wow. I need to try that out. It's still in the saran wrap because I'm a loser and I just buy games and they sit on the shelf.
Definitely try it. Yeah.
I'm going to get there someday. I need to play it. I also I have the Alesta collection. I still haven't played GG Celeste 3.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That's great. That one is great. That one is really good.
I still need to play that. But yeah, Salamander 3, if you were to ask me what my favorite game of the decade is, that might be it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Because of what it does. What it shows me for what a sequel can be, and that you can have a totally different development team and actually capture the spirit of the original in an authentic fashion. It gives me hope for what other games can be. They show the world how to do it. And there's so many examples just within that game, even within just its music and just its visuals. It does so much that I wish other games would learn from to become a successor to itself.
Mm-hmm. You sold me. I need to go open up my Gradius box. I'll say it.
Yeah, I will warn you. There are a lot of cheap deaths, and it is a very hard game.
It's a shooter.
But if you play it enough, I mean, that game does so many drive-bys. It's insane. But I mean, by the time you learn how to play it, it should be okay. It's not perfect. It's got some issues, and I guess any great game has its imperfections that you can criticize. And that game is not perfect, but it is a good enough example of what that kind of game should be, and they executed on it perfectly in that regard.
Mm.
Yeah, I think M2 is really has really come into their own. They made the Gradius Rebirth game, right?
Yeah.
And that one actually is really good too on the Wii. Of course, you can't buy it anymore, but you can get a copy if you need to. But yeah, I think that one was really good too. But it really feels like M2 has come into their own, making their own original versions of throwbacks, kind of or sequels that feel somewhat throwback to classic games, especially Konami stuff.
Yeah, kind of like how indie games have done a really good job of capturing the feel of those old games, but like M2 does a good job of making it feel like a continuity, like it's actually made by the same people.
Exactly.
It feels like it's very seamless.
Like it's not like experts. A spiritual sequel. It's like this is a real sequel. Basically.
Exactly. They just do such a good job of it.
And I felt that even all the way back to Gauntlet 4, like I felt that even back then that they really had the attention to detail and they made it feel how it should. And the other thing that I like is technically they care about things like frame rate and performance where other developers just don't. Like if you ask me, like, compare like Digital Eclipse to M2, I would say like, well, Digital Eclipse is basically THQ. And yeah, M2 is like the real deal.
I mean, THQ did some good things. they brought over wrestling games.
Yeah, that's true. Eventually they got better.
Yeah.
I think the best part about Digital Eclipse, which is funny to me, is that I like their history stuff that they include. Not necessarily the game emulation, just the history stuff.
They should just sell VHS tapes already. That's all they're good at.
There we go, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Getting back to the episode proper here, not to say that that was a great conversation, though. But Kiyoshi, you were getting into Gradius 2. But let's get back into Gradius. What's your personal experiences here with Gradius?
So the funny thing about my personal experience with Gradius is I didn't really have very much personal experience with it, at least not in the arcade. I never saw a real Gradius arcade game back like in its era. I didn't see one. It's funny because I played a lot of Scramble back in the day. So I was really familiar with Scramble, and I totally would have played Gradius in the arcade had I seen it. But for whatever reason, I was living in San Diego, I think at the time. Just there was no Gradius cabinets. That nobody bought one, I guess. The first time I actually saw a real Gradius cabinet was in the UK, surprisingly enough, where apparently it did well. But yeah, like when I went on a trip with my family and I actually saw a Gradius cabinet there. But a friend of mine had Gradius on the NES, and we played it a little bit. But he also had Castlevania, and I really liked Castlevania. So we ended up playing a lot of Castlevania and not as much Gradius. But I don't know, for whatever reason, Gradius never really caught on with me as much as I think it should have. I don't think it's bad. I just, for whatever reason. And we ended up playing Life Force after that came out, mostly because it was two players we could play together. Maybe that was part of it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mostly my personal history with Gradius. I've of course played it a lot since then. Played the arcade version a lot, and I've played the NES version a bit, and especially for this episode. But I like Gradius. I think Gradius, especially that first one, even though it's a landmark, I feel like the series has evolved past it quite quickly. So that's kind of what happened with me.
And just for a note for the listener here, yes, we are going to primarily focus on the NES version today. That's because it is the 40th anniversary of the Famicom release. I try to time these things. Shane, well, maybe I'll go here first because I think Shane has more than me. I have no
fine.
idea. But you have been quiet for a while. Actually, Shane, go ahead. You haven't talked a lot. Go for it.
Sure, yeah. My personal history with it is not much of anything. I think actually this is the first time I ever played the arcade version at all. Was buying the collection on Steam. So that was neat to experience that. Otherwise, it was strictly NES. And even then, I don't think I owned this because I had already gotten a copy of Life Force at the time, and I thought that was better. But again, this is not a Life Force episode.
Not yet.
It's not. So that's pretty much it. And then going back and trying to play it and being like, this game is like actively hates me, which might be foreshadowing for later.
So I guess that brings it to me to wrap up our personal experiences here, which is I know I played this game. I know I played this game as a kid. It may have been Life Force, but I'm going to say it's great Gradius for this episode because we're not getting into more Life Force. I'll be later. But yeah, I know I've played Gradius as a kid. I know I probably wasn't very good at it. I could tell you that for sure. But I think like most of the things that stuck out for Gradius mostly passed me by because I was a big Castlevania Symphony of the Night fan and I didn't catch any. I mean, I knew they were there. I saw them, but I didn't understand all the call outs to Gradius in that game where you had like the shield rod and it had the little stars that it threw out. I'm like, why is this called? Okay, because it conjoins with the shield. But no, like it's actually. Its special move is a throwback to Gradius, which is really cool. And I knew what Parodius was, but I didn't know how. This is how dumb I am. I didn't know it was linked to Gradius. Like that didn't like ring a bell to me. Man. Like it didn't. Like it should have. It didn't. So I can't. Yeah, I'm not here to defend myself. I'll take all of that. But I got a copy a while ago for my NES. I had to say probably about 10 years ago. And I also picked up a Nintendo NES Advantage because, it's nice to have a joystick for a console. And I started playing it a lot for the NES. And this was back when I was actually semi-decent at shooters. I wasn't rusty. It is a perishable skill if you play them casually, believe it or not. And I actually made it pretty far on my first couple of times going through. I think I made it like to stage 3 or 4 without dying. I don't know how I did that based on my most recent playthrough. But then my NES decided to crash randomly. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm done with this for a while. And I didn't pick it up until it was time to talk about it today. Just because I remember having such a great time with it. I'm a fan of shooters. So I'm like, hey, let's talk about some Gradius. And I'm looking forward to talking about my experiences with it and looking at it more of a deep dive. But now that our stories are over, let's jump into the story and writing of Gradius. I think this section is going to be a little bit shorter. I just have this feeling. And for this, I have pulled up a digital copy of the manual. I'm going to get right into what this says. So here's what the story of Gradius is. The planet Gradius, a peaceful Earth-like world, is now under all-out space attack from their old nemesis. I see what you did there. Beings from the subspace star cluster of Bacterian. The people of Gradius are in danger of being completely destroyed by the amoeboid Bacterians. To save them, you have just launched the prototype hyperspace fighter, the Warp Rattler. Not
the what?
Yeah.
That was the Vic Viper.
The Warp Rattler. The entire galaxy awaits your duel to the death with the evil Bacterians. Your objective is the Bacterian super fortress, Xairis. Is that play on Xevious? It has to be.
I kind of feel like it is.
Yeah. To reach this, you must steal the enemy power capsules along your route and boost the Warp Rattler's hyper powers. You are the last hope for the gentle people of Gradius. You will need all your courage and concentration to win. Get ready to blast off. Okay. I did not know. They also have, if this is the NES manual, the next page is like the controls, and it's a Famicom controller. That's wild.
Nice.
But yeah, there you go. So it's not Vic Viper, it's the Warp Rattler.
I think I need to change my handle to Warp Rattler now.
There you go. Warp Rattler. Shane, what do you think of the story of Gradius and his
why
writing?
The fuck throwing this to me? All right, just, man, whew, so deep, the lore it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to wonder, right? Like it leaves a lot to the imagination. Why is it just the one? Why is it the only prototype ship that you have, that you seem woefully unprepared for, like a spacefaring kind of, civilization? Just feel like that's kind of on you, man. I don't know. Maybe the pilot's name is Vic Viper. Maybe I always thought that made more sense than the ship. I mean, it's like a dude name basically, right? So I'm coming up with my own headcanon here as we go, because it makes more sense to me, I think.
You want to hear something worse, Shane?
No, but go ahead.
If you go into manual a few pages later, it calls it the Warp Rattler, and then underneath it calls it Vic Viper.
Yeah, of course it does. Oh yeah, you're right, it does. I was looking at it right now too. Great. Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I don't know. What is anything? Yeah, man, it's a shooter. Like, that's all you need. Bad things, blow them up, right? It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for what it's worth, like, it's not. I guess there's really no other place to put this other than perhaps like the presentation, because really that's sort of the medium we're talking about here, right? But I feel like I should at least mention that it was a very world build first approach to this game that the team took, that at the time was not usual, fairly unheard of. Actually, they kind of took a more top down approach of, hey, let's build out like the idea of this game's world and then develop against that, which sounds stupid now because it's just like, yeah, of course you do that. But then back then that was not the case, especially with, something like this. So I just want to point that out because like it's not at all communicated well in the little paragraph blurb that you get in the instruction manual. But I do appreciate that they took that approach, because it does end up with, in my opinion, a much more sort of cohesive vision of what the game is. Because otherwise you could just very well end up with, half a dozen stages that are just completely different, with no real like connective tissue. So I feel like I should put that out there.
Kiyoshi, what do you think of this game's plot and writing?
I guess I don't have that much to say about it. It's very standard for, a shmup, right, or a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So you have one ship against insurmountable odds against this entire empire of aliens, right? Like, I guess at the time it was probably fairly novel, but that seems to be the plot of pretty much every space shooter out there.
Yeah.
Right?
R-Type definitely stole us homework. That is for damn sure. There's a lot of parallels there. Well, I mean,
Darius
didn't.
Too.
No, did not. It's fish.
It's fish.
It's fish.
That's right.
Fighting fish. Cris, you're in the video game writing scene. How does this fare for you?
Well, it was early days in terms of, writing lore for any kind of game for that matter. So the fact that they thought about it enough, also to note that, the top down structure of, well, you're one ship, fighting impossible odds, and you're supposed to end up at the super fortress to complete your mission, gives it that progression framework. That's exciting when you read about it, in the manual or on the back of the box. And given that it's a 1985 game, that was quite ahead of its time. It's having a level-based stage design like that, where every level kind of has a unique theme. I feel that Gradius was one of the first games to pull that off. The fact that there's music for every level and there's boss music, certain things, certain tropes that we take for granted now. Bosses having weak points, things turning red when you shoot them a lot, gates that get knocked down when you fire into the weak point. These are things that may have started with Gradius, but a lot of other games took notice of and would also adopt that kind of structure in terms of level theming and having about 6 or 7, or I guess like 6 to 8 levels for a shmup. And that was pretty much established by Gradius as that precedent. And then that fits into that framework of, okay, I'm this ship. I start off kind of on these easier levels, and then things get more serious. And then near the end, it gets all organic. And then the very last level is the super fortress. And that, they're going to be shooting a lot of stuff at you. And you see, the mechanical things start coming out of the walls. And it builds up that excitement to the end. Although it does have an interesting, I guess I don't need to spoiler alert 81, but it's a little non-climactic at the very, very end. But that in itself has become a trope in Gradius, in that sometimes the last part of the game is actually not the hardest. So it has established a lot of interesting things, and the story framework that they built around it, although it's not super, unique in terms of, if you compare it to other stories that are around today, for its time, for a 1985 game, they're quite good.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you heavily here, Chris. I'm a fan of professional wrestling. And most of the time, the stories that are told through promos in professional wrestling are very goofy. They are meant to get you intrigued. They are meant to get you to enjoy the product. They're to entice you to watch what you really want to see with professional wrestling, which is 2 meaty men slapping meat. That's what you really want. But more to my point here, the best thing about professional wrestling is the storytelling that's done inside the ring, like during the match, as things are developing, how the wrestlers are telling a story, even though they've never maybe have had a match together before, or if they've had series of matches or events, and how that story is told in the ring. I am just completely gassing up Gradius here because I really don't have much else to say, but the level layout does kind of do that. And that wasn't something you typically saw really from video games in general at the time, maybe in visual novels or text adventures or stuff like that, of course, because that was kind of their entire shtick there. But like, even if you go to the original Mario Brothers, there's a little bit of that, how sometimes the levels get a little bit darker later on. You get more castles at the end of the game, but like the scenery is very similar, whereas you're getting different scenery progressing as you're moving through the game, which was very uncommon in 1985 for sure, and especially for shooters, which was mainly just high score chase. That's entirely what they were. Didn't really deviate much from the high score chase kind of tradition, but it did move shooters into being more in the story territory. So I'll give Gradius its flowers entirely for that, and that sort of progressive storytelling in what it's doing in the game, even though it seems like, based on some of the interviews that I read, it was more of them just trying to do something cool and unique instead of really trying to tell a story. It's just trying to do something different. And I can 100% respect Gradius from that perspective. It's really cool.
Can I add something to that?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you notice about a lot of the NES games made by Konami, the writing on the back of the box, they usually have a lot more writing on the backs of those, those silver shutter design Konami boxes, and even to a certain extent the Ultra games. Their copywriter was crazy. Like, they would embellish like no other. And the fact that he even changed the Vic Viper name to Warp Rattler is probably like them trying to get their paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they'll take a story and maybe they'll have like a rough Japanese story, and that they will embellish and make it sound like crazier and more emphasized and just a lot more interesting than it actually originally was. So some of the things that you would read about it or read about certain Konami games, the way they would write it would play it up a bit and might not actually be entirely accurate to how it was designed to be in Japan. I'll just say that right now. Some of the games, when you look at the back of like Metal Gear and it talks about Colonel McCafferty or whatever, it starts saying these weird names, and you can just tell that whoever was writing this stuff, I don't do drugs, but I would imagine that if I did drugs and tried to write a game story, that's something like how it would turn out. if I were to take a Japanese script for a game and then it's like, okay, let's sell this to some American kids. How are we going to go about doing it? And they're like, dude, all right, I'm going to make this sound crazy. And then they just start going off on it. And that's what the backs of the Konami boxes and then the manuals seemed like to me as a kid growing up. And I think it helped them. I think it defined like a corporate identity. I would, not so corporate as in trying to communicate with the player that this is a fun experience by creatively writing the story more than it had to be.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a 80s extreme sort of vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah. One of the things I forgot to look this up, and I really should have. What other games were Gradius's contemporaries, I guess, in terms of, like, especially shooters and things? You guys know offhand?
I do.
Okay.
Section Z and Legendary Wings from Capcom.
Okay. Legendary Wings definitely had stage progression
It
like
did.
that.
Legendary Wings much better on the NES, by the way, or Famicom.
Yeah.
Section Z, not so much. It was just kind of like a Metroid-ish shmup. I hate the fact I said that. Twin Bee came out at the same time. Also Konami.
Oh, that's right. Twin Bee was not of the Gradius quality. That's for sure.
Star Force from Sega. I don't think that had level progression.
That's Tecmo.
Was it Tecmo?
But yeah,
it
that
was
was
Tecmo. It's Tecmo.
the same. It's basically the same thing every level. Section Z was very different in the arcade, and that one had a letter-based progression, but still, it was just like the same base on every single level.
Right. It's the same graphics every time, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. A later game that came out on the NES at around the same time, or at least a similar time, was Dragon Spirit by Namco.
Great game.
And that actually had, level-based progression, different music. But it came a couple of years after. They probably... It's funny because it was like the revenge of Namco. It's like, oh, well, you're going to one-up our Xevious. We're going to, do our version of the level-based shooter, which is, a vertical game in Dragon Spirit.
Well, Dragon Spirit is basically super Xevious in a way, because it
got
still has the bombing. And yeah.
Yeah. And then you also had, what is that? I'm just kind of looking at things right now. Macross. I think that was on the Famicom. They had a
That's
shooter.
terrible.
Yep. 1942.
Oh, that's
1942, 1943. I would say, it was right in between. 1942 was 1984, so that was still kind of like in the Xevious era.
Mm-hmm.
And then with 1943, it was a lot more like a more modern game influenced by Gradius with the power-ups and everything.
I think it says Tiger Heli too. Tiger Heli, big game. Not as well as fondly remembered, I don't think. Obviously. Anyway,
well, its NES port was not that great.
No,
but
no. A lot of NES ports back then were not great. they were definitely farmed out.
Especially
sure.
if they went through Micronics, especially, it's like
all right. But let's talking about games and how they play. We're in that area right now. Let's get into the gameplay of Gradius. I will kick this one off, and I will say, as we've already been talking about, this is a horizontal shooter, not a vertical shooter, a horizontal shooter where you control a little ship and move it around the screen and try not to get hit by enemies that are shooting at you. There are obstacles all over the place on the screen, and if you run into it, you die. You can collect power-ups. You can select power-ups as you get little items that you pick up after killing certain enemies.
Power capsules.
Thank you. You get power capsules that you can use to power up your ship, and then when you die, you lose all of it. And that's the joy and misery that is Gradius, and I like it. I fucking love it. And look, I can understand the complaints and say this game is really hard and it punishes you after you die, and what's the point of having lives? And I'm here. I will listen to you say all that. This game's only 17 minutes long. So, hey, Dark Souls fans, like, aren't some of your bosses more than 17 minutes? I think you can get good and figure out the patterns and everything like that. That's why I keep on being told about Dark Souls. I just need to figure it out.
He's just saying this to try to goad me.
Yes, I am. But that's I like it. I like trying to figure out the best way to power up your ship. I like figuring out enemy patterns and the best way to optimize your item pickups. How fast is too fast? You know you're too slow starting out, but where's that speed? Where is your balance? How you can control your ship the best? Do you want to use double? Is there a time to use double over laser? How quickly do you want to get your options? All of these things. How do you manage your shield upgrade? How much are you sweating when you have that shield highlighted at the very end and you're going through just a wall of power capsules and figuring out how not to get them? That's the fun part. There's just so much to Gradius that I absolutely adore. I think the boss fights are kind of lame. I understand that they're a relatively novel concept where it's just pretty much going up and down and praying that your options with their lasers get into the core. I think they self-destruct if you don't kill them fast enough either, is what I noticed too, which is interesting. Yep. I don't know what is it just points that you get if you kill them, or is there other advantages you get? Because I know there's warps. Do you get warps?
You can you get the Konami code advantage if you kill them.
Oh. Explain.
So if you don't kill the boss, you don't get an extra Konami code. So you get one per boss kill.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's cool. That's really cool. That'll help Shane out.
So you want to kill the bosses.
Yeah. You do want to kill the bosses. Okay, who wants to go next? Who wants to kind of give their perspective on the gameplay here?
Yeah, so what you said about choices during gameplay, like, do I get the laser? Do I get the double? Do I choose, one or the other? Or, there's a bunch of power capsules in my way. Do I count, like, how many I need to get so I land on the last slot for the shield so I can power my shield back up if I lose it? Like, those are things that, like, as a higher-end player, I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of how many shots I can take, especially when the game gets, like, way, way harder. Then it's like, okay, I know I have this many power capsules from here to the end of the level. I could eat this many shots. I'll dissolve my shield and then power up a new one. And you actually see me doing this. Like, I actually uploaded the gameplay in Discord, and you guys can watch it. I'm actually killing my shield and then reactivating my shields all the time. So there's, even as you get better and better at the game, there's other ways you can use the power-up capsules in that way. And also, you want to land it like on the last slot if you can, so that you can power up the shield again. And then the other decisions, of course, how many speed ups do I want for this section, or how many do I want in general? Like, you kind of just want to like get used to a certain speed and stop at a certain point. And I think on the NES version, I take maybe 2 or 3. You get too many more that are crazy, and they'll start to be hard to move around without crashing on the later levels. How you move your option orbs, I think, is one of the skills that it's very unique to that franchise, and them introducing that, I think, really made the game play differently than other space shooters at the time, because not only did you want your position to keep yourself out of danger, but you wanted to position those options in a way that'll eliminate enemies in a safer way. So you could stick them in front of you. You can have them drop the missiles or fire the double shot upward. And if you eliminate the enemies before that they cross a certain point where they fire at you, then you'll die a lot less. So that was a skill. And on the NES version, that's a little harder to do because you only get 2 of them. In the arcade version, you get 4. But even with 2, learning how to position them and then keeping your ship safe, like there's certain ways you can hang them above your ship and then like stay low to the ground. And if you notice in a lot of shooters or shmups or whatever you want to call them, if you're close to an edge of the screen where the shot disappears, you actually fire faster, because when your shot goes off the screen, then you can fire another one. You can actually use that to your advantage and protect your ship more by hanging near the front rather than the back. So using the options to kind of like rain around your ship can help protect it from certain situations. Especially you have those enemies that like spawn out of nowhere and they like to pop up on you. You can kind of protect yourself as long as they don't spawn directly under you by using that method, or like with a volcano, especially if you're trying to protect yourself, from getting blown up by those rocks. Then you can help yourself out there, especially if you don't have the laser yet. So those are just little things that I'm thinking about when I'm playing the game, and why the gameplay of Gradius is so memorable to me, because I could say this about Gradius and not necessarily about a whole lot of other games when it comes to positioning your ship and using those options to your advantage.
Yeah, I think the options in particular are pretty landmark, like a big landmark for shooters too, wasn't it? Like there weren't very many games that had
No.
something that like helped you in terms of like having additional ships worth of firepower apart from maybe like Galaga, I guess.
Galaga,
had
Gaplith,
it.
Terra Cresta. Firepower was the thing that was a thing in games, but being able to have it
Being
affect
able
your
to like
movement,
move it around, right?
Yeah, that was really revolutionary because it changed the way you thought about positioning your ship. There might
And
be
also-
a better position.
Also, the fact that the options are invincible, like the other firepower in the other games you mentioned, could be destroyed. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
especially Galaga, you lose a life if you lose your power up, right? So
right.
So the one
it's
I,
very important.
that was kind of closest to it, except it's like a reverse option that I could think of. It wasn't Star Force when I said Sega. No, it wasn't Star Force. It's Star Jacker,
Star Jacker. I'm actually not familiar with that game.
where you have like a bunch of like little ships following behind you, and that provides your firepower. But as you get hit, you die. It's an SG-1000 game.
Oh, okay.
Sounds similar to Astro Warrior. Maybe they changed it. I don't know.
Mhm. It's not Astro Warrior. They're different games. Conceptually, I think Star Jacker's a little cooler, but I think Astro Warrior looks like it plays a little bit better. But I mean, I wouldn't call it options, but it kind of has that spirit.
One of the things I wanted to talk about with the gameplay that is often not mentioned for shooters that I think people really need to think about when they're playing shooters is what's called rank. And you guys know what rank is? I mean, I know Chris does, or Chris Tang. Does Shane or Chris Copleen know what
Absolutely
rank
no
is?
idea.
No. Okay, so rank is where as you progress in the game, it gets harder. That's something everybody, can feel as they play the game. But if you get more power-ups, the game also gets harder.
Like Battle Garega.
So yes, Battle Garega is an infamous example of this, where they really like skew it against you. But especially the arcade Gradius had it was almost like a faucet switch. Like there's a point where if you get a certain amount of power-ups and the enemies just start spewing bullets at you, it's much more obvious in the arcade. In the NES game, it's relatively easy, so that it doesn't really do that too much. But you might notice it when you're on the final stage. If you get a certain amount of power-ups, then I actually didn't want to get the shield at certain points in Gradius because the enemies would just start raining bullets on me. And even having the shield wasn't enough to counteract that sometimes. But yeah, Battle Garega, basically all these shooters that have come out since then have a rank system. And if you play a lot of the M2 emulated versions of these shooters, and even the Gradius collection, you can see it has a rank. So watch that number as you play the game, and as you power up your ship, watch how it goes up, and watch how many more bullets are on the screen, etc.
Is there any way to track it?
Well, I mean, that's what the widget in the M2 versions is for.
Okay. I thought you saw.
But if you're playing a real ROM of it, or in the arcade or something, or even on the NES version, you're not going to see it. It's not visible.
Oh wow. Okay.
So you just have to feel it, basically. You know what I mean?
Haha, you're good at this game. We know you're good at this game. We're going to see
That's
how
right.
good this
You've
game
become
is.
too powerful. I'm going to cut you down now. Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's an extension of that too, and I'm assuming it didn't happen in this game. It was probably a later introduction. Somebody can keep me honest on that, I am sure. But the whole idea of options hunters, that feels cruel.
I think that came about in Gradius 3.
It was in 2.
Or was that 2? It was in 2.
2
Okay,
arcade.
yeah, 2.
It wasn't in the Famicom one, but it was in the arcade one.
The Famicom one doesn't have option hunters now. Yeah.
That sounds brutal. I don't want that.
But yeah, they can steal your power.
Awesome.
It's great.
Awesome. Fantastic.
And I think there's a timer for it or something. Like if you play the M2 ones again, you can see when the option hunter is going to start coming after you.
Huh.
Ugh. Well, Shane, you were talking about how this game punishes you. So please get into your masochism here and why you like Dark Souls.
Fuck off. All right. Cool. I don't even know how to. You know what? I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. I'm just going to talk about Gradius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go with. Wait. You know what? No, I lied. I'm going to partially, and that is that while there is definitely pattern recognition here, I feel like there's just a lot of random bullshit that pisses me right the fuck off. But man, this game sure is hard. very, very hard. And so my first run through specifically for talking about it today, I played on just a ROM that I had, and for the NES version, because that's what I had played before. And man, was there a lot of quick saves happening. And then there was some chat in the Discord about it, and they were like, hey man, like you should try out like the collections, like the Origins collection on Steam. It's got like the arcade versions of stuff. And I was like, yeah, man, I don't need $40. Why not?
I said NSO to be fair.
I mean, fucking whatever, man. I have a Steam Deck. Okay. Like, yeah. I don't know what that means.
Me neither.
It means that I don't want to use. It means I don't want to use other things. I just want it all on my Steam Deck. That's what it means. But anyway, so I got it on Steam and played the arcade version, and I had an easier time of it actually. And you might think that would be because so like the arcade version is easier. That seems odd. No, it's because of the rewind. The rewind made my life easier than just quick saving and quick loading. And I had so many. If this was a VHS, like I would have burned this tape out. I'm pretty sure. Good Lord, man. And this was another one of those ones where I was sitting playing it. My wife was sitting next to me, and she's like, "So you do this for fun, huh?" No, like yeah, allegedly, yeah, I do.
What? How many stages is it? Is 6?
I think it's like 6, or I'm not even gonna say the other thing. Is that still a thing? I don't know. 6 or the number after.
It's 7 if you don't warp.
Okay,
there you go.
I'm not, because I'm trying to think of all I know is fuck stage 3. That's what I know. The one with the Maui heads.
Yeah, that's stage 3.
Yes. So here's, I will not criticize Shane for using the rewind function, because I did the same in my playthrough for the NES. I can tell you where I rewound the most, and that was the Maui heads stage.
Well, because the hitbox sucks. It's like you got to shoot them in the mouth, except like half of them are facing the other direction.
I thought that too until I just shot them. I just shot at them, and then they started dying when they were attached to the ceiling. Now the ones
I don't know. What's happening.
The ones that are facing to the right, yeah, they can fucking go straight to hell. I hate them. I hate them so much. And that, what's funny is I thought it was stage 2, because when I fired it up and the first time I made it past the first stage, I don't know how I did this, but I warped to stage 3. And it had all the Maui heads like just going past. I'm like, what is going on? I don't remember this. I don't even. Do you know how to trigger the warp stages?
Yeah, we were talking about that in the Discord. Like, because I had said that I haven't played this game in 20 years, but you know what? The internet got invented, and I never figured out what triggered the warps. Mm-hmm. So then I looked it up on Google and I pasted it into Discord, and yeah, I have it printed there for you guys to look at if you scroll back up.
Okay.
It has to do with destroying the hatches when a certain digit in your score is even, and then the other warp is killing enough Moai heads, like 10 Moai heads on the 3rd level. I think there might be
10.
Destroying the boss within a certain amount of time is the 3rd one, and every stage has one of those different rules that if you perform the rule, then it will do the warp.
I think you have to kill the boss in less than 5 seconds or something. If you have all your options lined up, you can do
laser
it that fast.
See, this is how much I pay attention when reading, because I read the first sentence and it said that you still don't know what causes it. I think I stopped reading everything after that. This is how terrible I am. I was like, I guess he still doesn't know. It is cool that they're there, though.
Yeah, so those features are things that are not in the arcade version. They actually added those things for the NES. The NES version has the warps, it has hidden 1-ups if you fly your ships in certain places, and it has just like things like the Konami code. Those were not in the arcade. When I played the NES version when I was a kid, I got really good at it. I was like 10 at the time, and I could just go through the game over and over and over again. And one day I was just like, you know what, I'm going to get 99 lives. And then if you look at the playthrough, I have 14 lives at the end of loop 2. So really, you could, if you get good enough at that game, you make a profit every time you beat the game in terms of lives. So I got good enough to the point where I just could keep playing forever if I wanted to.
But it does have that shooter problem, especially, well, the more early shooter problem where, well, it's not just shooters. It's a lot of games from that era where if you are good at the game, you get rewarded with lives. But you're at that point, the only way that lives are beneficial is if you're good enough to not die immediately again. So if you're bad at the game and you die repeatedly, you're not going to get more lives. Because you might die after your power-ups lose them all, and then you're just going to keep dying. It's kind of contradictory, which is always kind of funny to me.
So that mechanic, I would say, so even good players die, and if you build up those lives, then you can recover to a certain point. In the newest game in the series, Salamander 3, that is basically the entire like meta game that has to be played. Is that you are constantly trying to not die and earn your lives, so you can get farther and score more points. So there is actually, and I'm not sure if it's really actual design, but as a player, that's what I'm going for, is that I'm trying not to die. I'm trying to earn as many lives as possible, and having those extra lives is what will determine my score in the end.
Is there a meta, going back to what Kiyoshi was talking about with rank? Is there a meta on sometimes you need to die?
Oh, are you asking me or Kiyoshi?
Either. I know that Kiyoshi brought up the
Well,
yeah.
I'm not as good at this game as Chris, so I think Chris should answer this one. But I was going to say in Battle Garega, there is a meta where you
have to die because eventually the game is just going to shut you down.
You have to die to keep your rank low. Yeah, and actually, apparently it's integral to scoring as well. I'm not that familiar with it, but Battle Garega is very complicated in that way.
But is that?
So I would say in these games, you probably don't want to do that, because just the way that's balanced.
Typically in Gradius, when you die, you get screwed.
Yeah. So I would say this game doesn't have any incentive for you to die at certain parts. There might be in Salamander 3 or in Life Force, there's certain places where if you know you're going to die anyway, there's better places to die than others. So if you know you're going to die, you can prepare for that and die in a better place so that you can spawn and get your in that game, you could pick up your options or your multiples after you die. So it's preferable to die up at the top of the screen than the bottom of the screen.
Could you do that in the arcade version of Gradius, the original Gradius?
Yes.
No, Life Force.
Okay, Life Force. Okay, because I remember that distinctly, picking up your options afterwards.
That's a Salamander thing, not a Gradius.
Yeah. I thought that was. I don't know why I thought that. Probably because of Life Force. Yeah. And I did play the arcade version at Galloping Ghost. I found a cabinet of Nemesis and was promptly stuffed. It was an experience. That game, well, it doesn't help that like the joystick. I'll say that the joystick wasn't the most responsive. Yep. It was very used, and it was just a little tighter. I'm sure I could have done better. The screen was a little out. It had a lot of problems. That's what happened.
If you talk to them at the desk, they'll fix it if it's that bad. So
I didn't want to bother them. They had a lot going on. There's a lot of machines there. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. There's lots that were obviously having problems, and they should have gotten to those first. So that's okay. That's okay. It'll be okay. Don't come after me, Galloping Ghost. It's not my fault. Anything else we want to add to the gameplay here? I think we covered the majority of it. Yeah, I think a good simple gameplay, but it's not like super simple. You can definitely tell that the building blocks are there, and I really enjoy it. I do. I thoroughly enjoy it.
I mean, okay, the fact that the man porting this game to the NES had to invent the Konami code in order to just properly test this game, I just feel like says everything that needs to be said. I mean, like, it was an accidental like creation of one of the most iconic things in gaming history, but also like, necessity is the mother of invention, and this dude was like, this shit is so fucking hard. I just need to cheat in order to get this thing out the door.
And it's way easier. So, it's way easier than the arcade, though. It's not like the NES I would say the NES version is probably easier than Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah,
it's way easier.
Sure. Yeah. And I remember saying, fuck that game too. So, I mean, at least there weren't birds in this one.
I mean, they fly around like birds sometimes.
Listen, man, you know what? Actually, you know what? No. This is dredging this back up now. You want to know what my personal experience with Gradius is? It's playing the first level and getting to the volcano and getting murdered and then shutting the fucking game off. That's what it is.
Love the volcano.
Yeah, the volcano's great. Find a spot to hide and pray. then hope you move fast enough when the screen starts scrolling to the right so you don't die.
I mean, you know what? At least they were courteous enough to put the big middle finger early in the game so that I didn't have to waste more time.
It's letting you know what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's funny because the one that's later on, I think in stage 4 or 5, the second volcanoes, that one's easier to avoid because everything's upside down.
Yeah.
I found that far more manageable.
One of the things about the secrets is that a lot of times you have to have your thousands digit apparently in the even numbers to get like the 1-ups or the bonus points, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the hatch destroying for the warp like Cris was talking about. Your scorer has to have an even thousands digit to do those things. And I think that they just did that so that people wouldn't know exactly how to do it, right? It wasn't like obvious.
Yeah.
Gradius 1 on NES is, apart from Life Force, is probably one of the most gentle Gradius games. Unfortunately for Shane, I guess. But
no, it's great.
But yeah, I mean, you said you played the arcade game, and you can already tell the NES game is quite a bit easier than that, right? So
Gradius 5 is pretty accessible.
Yeah, it's a pretty hard game, though. That's harder than Gradius 1.
For the NES, I would say, yeah. Well, like I said, the NES one is 17 minutes, and the first stage of Gradius 5 is 17 minutes.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say is you don't need the Konami code if you just get good, you just get good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, these games, it's a 17-minute game, right? So they have to do something to make it, challenging. So you spend more time on it.
I looked at my video just now, and my Loop 2 run is only 15 minutes.
Yeah, Contra is also 15 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's a matter of like what you put the time into. Like, and I understand that because like, I say that because, I'm that person that's like really good at Contra 3, and a lot of other people say that's a really hard game. And I'm just like, I don't see it, but that's because I played the shit out of it.
Well, there you go.
When I was younger. So like, I get it. It's repetition. I get it. But man,
Contra 3 is harder than Gradius 1 for me.
Yeah.
See to me, that's wild. Cause like this game, like,
I can beat Contra 3 on hard, but it's still harder to me than Gradius on the NES.
See, it's all a matter of perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get into the presentation of the game now with the game's graphical presentation. Now, this is a 1986 game, and that's actually going to really affect the way I talk about it. But Shane, what do you think about Gradius's... I'm not going to say it the same way twice in the entire episode. What do you think about Gradius's, especially the NES version's graphical presentation?
Oh, let's see. Well, again, this is so hard to not just do this, but like I just instinctively compare it to Life Force, and like the overall presentation in Life Force, I prefer like almost on every level for several reasons. But I mean, you know what? I will say that I think for what it's worth, it's pretty cool. It's interesting in that some of what makes the game kind of what it is are almost in some ways accidents or just like leftovers of grander visions for the game, right? Like the Moai heads, like the whole reason that they're even there is because they originally wanted to have like these fantasy levels in the game that just never materialized due to like time and budget constraints. But, those stuck around, which also then sort of became like these almost like unintentional Konami mascots in a weird way. And so it's similar to kind of what I was talking about in our flight when I was talking about Life Force, in that it was games like this that had that certain level of like mystique to it that I think really kind of amped things up, especially when you're a kid. because there's just these things that like either you've never seen before or are just like you wouldn't expect when you're playing a game. And so I think it's those kind of things, you know, not knowing the backstory of like why a lot of the, you know, things are there that are being presented to you, or like the fact that, you know, the final boss, not that I ever fucking saw that as a kid, but like that the final boss is a brain. And the only reason that it's a brain is because they were like developing that right up to like literally the deadline and they had no better ideas. And so like, that's just what they went with. But it's just like that oddball shit that just kind of, like I said, lends this air of mystery to a lot of games of this era. And I think, again, take it with a little bit of grain of salt, because I know that that's, it's being magnified by, you know, that the age that I was at when I was playing them. Because when you're a kid, you know, you're still not separating, you know, fact from fiction and reality from fantasy as well as you do when you get older. So there's that kind of blending that kind of makes things feel a little bit more like surreal and magical, I guess, which is a lot to say. That like overall, I do enjoy like the graphical presentation, even with, you know, some of the NES hang-ups there, you know, with like some slowdowns, which honestly are actually probably beneficial for someone who sucks like me. It slows things down a little bit so I can think. And some of the you know, NES flickering and whatnot. But no, man, overall I dig it.
Kiyoshi, what do you think?
I think the aesthetic for Gradius is great, actually. And of course, it also spawned sort of its own, I would say, like almost mythology in terms of, you know, like the upside down mountains and the Moai heads and like the brain boss thing. And like, because Life Force has a brain boss and it's the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Konami was really good at this, where they would take an idea and they would just keep expanding it, and like in every sequel and in every, like, and especially for a series like Gradius, like you see the same themes repeated, but then they try it out in some other way. So like if you play another, like the sequels to Gradius, oh, the Moai heads turn around and fire at you now instead of staying facing the other direction. Or maybe they fly. Or maybe in Parodius, there's a giant Moai ship with a whole bunch of Moai kids, and like all this, you know, it gets crazy. And like they just take these ideas and they keep going with it, and it's actually really fascinating. But you know, all that was established with the first Gradius, and of course, like the influence it's actually interesting to read about, especially the Moai heads, because they thought they needed something mysterious in the game, and they got that idea because Xevious had the Nazca lines from like Central America in it. Are they in? Those are in Central America, right?
I think South America, Peru.
I think South America.
Yeah,
okay,
Peru,
South America.
I think.
They're in Peru. Okay, yeah, but like they wanted something like what Xevious had, because they were looking at, you know, games that came before it. And they said, well, you know, that's pretty mysterious. What does it mean? Well, nobody really knows, right? But they wanted something like that. And the Moai thing is really odd, because I feel like Japan in general likes these Moai heads, the Easter Island heads. Like I was watching anime back in the 90s, and there was this this company, I forget, I think, was it Bandai? Anyway, it said Emotion.
Yeah.
And they had a Moai head, and that was like their main symbol, was the Moai head. And I'm like, this doesn't have anything to do with Konami, but they like Moai heads too, you know? And so you see like Moai stuff pop up in Japan randomly, you know, every so often. I'm like, is there something to this? I don't know. I still don't really know. But yeah, I like the graphical presentation. I think it's gotten better since Gradius 1, but it was well established in Gradius 1 at the same time. Like I think that they're like, especially the organic levels have gotten a lot better. The inventiveness with what the Moai stuff does has gotten better, but also more difficult. But yeah, I like it. I think it's I think it kind of inspires your imagination. You know what I mean? Like you see this stuff and it's weird and it's, you know, out there and it's in, you know, literally in space in the game, but it always made me think, oh, like there's more to this world than what we're seeing. You know what I mean?
I'll kind of go a different route, and I think you're 100% correct here, Kiyoshi. But my mindset is, and this is what I was kind of alluding to off the get here, this is a 1986 game. So for us North Americans, it's not too far removed from the black box series of games. And it doesn't have any MMC chips. This wasn't a Famicom disk system release, so it didn't have the extra memory or other capabilities it could have worked with. And when you compare it to other straight up Famicom games, like with no alterations or anything, like Gradius on like the home port looks really, really good. There's not much else out there that really competes with, I think, its visual presentation for its time. Like very few things, especially when you go down the other routes of the extra stuff that a lot of the other ports brought in. Even those games, like you compare this to a Zelda 2, I think this looks better than Zelda 2. And that's the first party Nintendo game that came out like a year after in 87. I think this looks better than the original Legend of Zelda. I think it looks better than Metroid. A little bit simpler, of course. It has that advantage. It has that capability of doing so. But I think that the way that this game looks, it looks phenomenal. And even playing it in the arcade, like I have to remind myself, this is a 1985 game. Arcades are a different beast. So many different arcade games back then. A lot of people doing a lot of innovations. I don't know how it really compares there. I still think it holds up phenomenally today. I think the sprite work is very, very good. But if I'm looking at the NES title, yes, is a Life Force going to look slightly better? Of course it is. But by that point, developers, especially Konami, knew how to really work those extra chips and get the most out of the Nintendo Entertainment System, and put games that could not look as nearly as good or performed as well as they could have on the original 1983 Famicom later on in that life. So I give incredible kudos to the way Gradius performs and just visually presents itself. And Shane did mention slowdown. I didn't encounter a ton of slowdown, whether it was the cartridge or on NSO. I didn't really encounter a ton. And I think that's impressive, too, because there are times when you're getting shot at by tons of bullets, or the Moais are like shooting circles ad nauseum at you and just waves of them. And to not have a lot of slowdown is also impressive, all things considered. So I think it still holds up, too. I think it's a decent looking game. And I tend to like well-designed, simple games that don't try to do too much. And I do think Gradius is right there in that ballpark. So yeah, I think it looks good visually. I still think it looks good. How about yourself, Chris?
Yeah, I'm gonna hard agree on all of that. And I alluded to it a little earlier, but seeing it in the Versus format for the arcade, and then seeing it in the store and knowing what kind of experience I was gonna get because it was in a Versus cabinet, that it was gonna be kind of like a parallel to what I got with Super Mario Brothers. Like, it really delivered on that. Like, being able to play a game in the arcade and get basically the same thing at home, to me, blew my mind, and it made it incredibly impressive and made me incredibly excited for everything that came out that could do that. Of course, that didn't last too long, and the truth of the matter is it wasn't really arcade games that we were getting at home. It's that they were putting really good home games into arcade cabinets, so when you got the home version, it was an equivalent experience. And not a lot of people talk about that, how the Versus system basically was Famicom games shoved into an arcade cabinet, and the end result was that I got a really impressive home game when I finally got it, a year or two later. In terms of the translation between the original Nemesis / Gradius, I think it was like running on very powerful arcade hardware for its time, having 68,000 and bubble memory and other things, a huge color palette that a lot of other games didn't have. Putting that on to an 8-bit Nintendo, just about a year later, that was huge. So I really thought it was impressive for its time, and even till today, it still plays great, 60 frames per second, extremely smooth. I love it. I love it, and even playing it to this day, it still looks good to me.
Well, let's just go and head into the how this game sounds then, and I'll start this portion and just say I'm probably going to get crucified a little bit. I understand it was novel for the time. The music's a little weird, like how there's an intro to every stage. Not saying all the music is. I'm not saying I don't like the music, but the way the music's delivered not really my cup of tea. I do think that it has a decent soundtrack. It's not one of the best soundtracks. It's memorable and iconic to people who played, especially like stage 1. But I don't know. I don't like the boss music either. I just don't. It's like too happy. It's way too happy. I wouldn't put it at the top, but it's not intrusive. It doesn't get in the way. I wouldn't call it bad by any extent of the imagination. But I would be lying if I would be lying if I said it did it for me, because it just doesn't. It doesn't really, I don't know, incite me in any sort of meaningful way. Now, both Cris and Kiyoshi, especially you, Cris, you're probably going to have a lot more attachment to this game's soundtrack. So what's your thoughts here?
I do have some thoughts about that.
Yeah.
So the Famicom Nintendo version is a translation off of a very different sounding chip. If you listen to the arcade Nemesis or Gradius, the original version, it sounds nothing like the Nintendo version. I mean, it is really far off different than what it originally sounded like. The original Nemesis sounded a lot like the older Konami arcade games, like Rock and Rope, and maybe, I think that's probably the best example. Stuff from like the 84 era. They had this really kind of, it had a lot of reverb. It had a lot of, their explosions sounded like, I don't know, breaking cardboard boxes and stuff like that. It was very different. It had a very chippy sounding feel to it, and not like a Master System or a Nintendo. It just sounded really different. So when you hear the original stuff, I think they each have their own appeal to it, but because they had to translate that very different sounding chip to the Nintendo, it did not come across in the way that was intended to, and that's why it's probably happier than it needed to be. And it was definitely before Konami started putting the special sound chips in there, putting the special samples and things like that, before they had the engine that we know and love so well. Later on, probably starting from Life Force a little bit after that, I think, Castlevania and the Castlevania 2 definitely started having that more. Gradius was like it was like before. It was like a generational leap after that, but it was still kind of like in the stock Famicom sounding chips era. So when you talk about it doesn't really, it sounds kind of happy and it sounds kind of off. I think that's what you're talking about, and I feel it too. But because I was used to hearing that, playing versus Gradius in the arcade, I was kind of okay with it. One thing I do want to relate, though, is that boss music, while it was kind of, it does sound a little happy, it's a little maybe not what they would have gone for later on in terms of a boss encounter. It formed a very foundational memory for me, because when I played Life Force, like maybe about a year after in the arcade, and I got to the last level, there's a part on the last level where you're now flying vertically, because Life Force had horizontal levels and vertical levels. And the final level of the game, you're flying up, it says entering brain area, it has a synthesized voice, and halfway through the level, you get to this part, and the screen stops scrolling, and the super fortress comes up from underneath the ground, and then the big core boss from Gradius shows up in vertical perspective, firing, those iconic 4 laser beams, and I'm hearing a new version of that Gradius boss music. And I think this is the first memory I ever had of hearing a chiptune remix in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
A chiptune remix of its own series, and it says biomechanical brain attack, and I have to kill this thing from Gradius, and my mind is just blowing, and I'm screaming in the arcade. And the funny thing is, I used to take my Walkman to the arcade. Yeah, I had a cassette Walkman. I took my cassette Walkman to the arcade so I could record video game music.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I was doing this back then. So I have a recording of this. The first time I see this, screaming, seeing the last level of the game for the first time. I might have a tape of this somewhere. But yeah, it was a very formal memory of me hearing that music and realizing it was a boss from Gradius that I was fighting. And even though I could kind of tell that the games were related, it was never explicitly said that Life Force was a sequel to Gradius at the time, because the Nintendo version hadn't come out yet. And I'd only played versus Gradius. I had seen Nemesis once or twice. And I was playing this new game, Life Force, which was totally blowing my mind. But hearing that boss music, I mean, it was maybe I didn't think of it much when it was in Gradius, but when I heard it for the second time in Life Force, my mind was blown. And that really cemented this awesome feeling of, hey, this company is building this universe that's expanding. And back in 1986, that was something that it completely changed the way I thought about video games, and it was amazing. So the audio portion, it was simplified, and it wasn't the best for that platform, surely, and definitely not as good as what Konami would bring shortly thereafter. But they had to start somewhere, and you could see the seeds of that forming. And one thing I will say about Konami's sound design is that in terms of creating music for video games, Konami was always on the very forefront of pushing that edge forward. And they were right on the edge of that generational leap that they were about to take when they made Gradius 1 for the Famicom. So you could kind of see where they were learning from. I mean, if you want to talk about the advancements, I think the very first time that they went full on into FM and doing crazy things with it that no one else did, the original Life Force and Salamander was the one that pushed that forward. So going from Gradius 1 to Salamander was that generational leap.
Mm-hmm. How about yourself, Kiyoshi?
Gradius 1's not really, well, I guess, one of my favorites either. But, it's funny, the boss music that you're talking about is now known, I think, as the Zubrush music. It's where a bunch of those like square blue enemies show up and like swarm you. You know what I'm talking about? Like, so if you play other Gradius games or other Gradius inspired games, oftentimes they'll have this thing where like a bunch of those square enemies will rush you, and it has that same music every time. And so it's become one of those foundational pieces of music for the series. I guess whether you like that piece of music or not is, more of a taste thing, but it's not one of my favorite pieces in a Gradius game, but it is a very iconic piece because it shows up so often throughout the series. So I think that, in that way it's important. But yeah, I mean, I think the music is relatively good. It's like Chris said, it's not the generational leap that Konami's known for on the console, but it's not bad. And I actually don't even really mind that it's not like the arcade game. The funny thing about the arcade game is that it kind of feels a little chintzy to me, like a I don't know, like a kid's piano or something. Like it has this funny synth that feels very, I don't know, like kiddie to me.
I can see that.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I do. Yeah. Kind of like Miracle Piano.
The type of synth that they use for the arcade game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's bizarre. Like I was like, I always thought that. I was like, why does it sound like some kid's little like, Miracle Piano or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of the music itself, I think the music is decent. It's not like everybody is saying, it's not really my favorite of the series or anything, but it's not bad music at all.
Before I throw it to Shane, I just want to say that the composer is Miki Higashino, who would later on go to compose the score for, of course, a lot of the Gradius games, but also Contra 3, the Alien Wars, and the Suikoden games, the first two.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit going on there. Not the only composer, because it was a team effort in a lot of those games, but yeah, some notables there. Shane, what did you think? Knowing this is the same composer as Contra 3.
Yeah. No, I don't know. No, maybe I need to change my opinion now. No, I mean, it's fine. I think it's really front loaded in that I think Beginning of History, that track, like one of the first ones, is really good. I really, really enjoy that one. May also just be because that's the one that I've heard the most, because that's where I die all the time. But besides that, it is genuinely a good track, though. I'm just going to be real. Most of the rest of this soundtrack, I could really take or leave, and in some cases probably just leave. Like they're not, to me, they're not great. They're just not great. Like, I think Chris, you kind of mentioned this where you were saying that, it feels a little too happy. Like it feels like a tonal mismatch to me. And I 100% agree on that front, I think. And then some of them, and granted, this is very, it's early, what have you, I get it. they feel kind of sparse, and not in like an intentional, like I'm leaving space kind of way. Like I don't know. It feels like there should be something more happening, and they don't feel quite as fleshed out, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. I think that first track I really love. I definitely do not like that boss music. Like I don't have the emotional connection to it. So I just find it to honestly be like really grating. Like I always think it's weird that that's the boss track for this game, because it feels more like it should be like a time trial section or something. It has that like weird urgency to it. Like, and not in like a, oh man, like there's this big thing about to attack you urgency, but like a, hey, you need to get through this quick urgency, which again feels like a strange tonal mismatch to me. But yeah, it's fine.
I think that's why they moved it to the ZubRush
Yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
It fits a lot better, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything about the actual sound design itself? I know we talked a lot about the music. I don't really notice it. I don't really care. Explosions sound like NES explosions. I mean, they're not too terribly impressive, but this is an early NES release, especially for us. I know 3 years into the Famicom, but again, no real mappers there. I thought it was just fine. I'll just leave it at that. I don't notice it. I'm not an audiophile, so I'm not here to say if it sounds too thin or too heavy or whatever. But
the pew pews do.
yeah,
be
they sound like pew
pew-pewing.
pews. I will say that.
Yep.
They don't really bother me.
There is one disappointing sound effect in the game, I would say.
Oh, what's that?
And that is when the bass explodes at the very end.
Yeah, that's true. It could
and
be
it's,
more
and
massive.
it's just like a normal explosion from the game. And it was like,
I wish that when your shield got hit, it made a sound.
Yeah,
uh,
I agree.
That would be nice.
Later on, they do have a sound for it.
Yeah, but not here. Okay, I think that concludes the main discussion here for Gradius, and now we can get into our own opinions whether or not this holds up today. But before we do that, we like to talk about what our patrons think about our game du jour, and that's part of our patron pontifications. You want to pontificate on a game here on the show? Well, all you got to do, this is actually more complicated now that I start talking about it, I've realized this. All you got to do is join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. We actually do have a comment from the Patreon. I will post, say that you can talk about that there in the Patreon feed itself. I know the app is kind of ass, but yeah, it's there as an option. The other one is you can head over to Discord and go to our Patreon pontifications, whereas most of the people post their thoughts about the game that we are talking about, and we will get into that now. And first is Lyle, and Lyle says, wow, a game as old as I am. I remember buying an NES in college, getting this game, and playing the hell out of it. Was I good at it? Obviously not. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Will I still fire it up from time to time? Sure will. Smooches. Thank you, Lyle.
All right. And next up on the pontification list, we have Lethco of the Afterglow podcast, who says, shockingly, the shooter I missed out on until I began retro game collecting. My NES shooter was Abadox, and my Super Nintendo was Super R-Type. When I finally discovered Gradius, I loved the upgrade system, easily the standout mechanic. I wish the bosses had as much variety as the stages had, but that's a minor issue that is fixed in later installments. Thank you, Lethco.
So next up is Soha from Game Over Hell. Gradius makes me wonder how this series even got more games after this, but I also wonder the same about Metroid, so it checks out. Not a big fan. I beat it with ample use of rewinds, and stages can be quite challenging, but it really does lack in boss variety, and I suppose the game goes on for a bit too long. But yeah, there's merit in being like, what? One of the first horizontal shooters? So I'll give it that.
It is one of the first horizontal shooters, isn't it? I didn't even think about that. Is everything else?
Well, they started with Scramble, and
That's
it's
true.
a successor to that, and I think the most famous horizontal shooter from the prior era was Scramble. So
Does Defender count?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it
I
would. Yeah.
suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, why wouldn't it count? All right, Chris, if you want to read this one.
Says Matt, aka Stormageddon, says this and Life Force were a staple of my childhood. Have always loved shmups and it start backs with these. I will admit, though, that I have no idea how difficult Gradius actually is because growing up I always played it with a Game Genie. But man, it was a fun game. But yeah, I mean, I grew up with it too, and it was a staple of my childhood. But probably maybe a bit more than the average person. I was really obsessed with it. Still am now. So those games that stick with you. It looks like I'm happy to hear it when it happens to other people too.
Absolutely. And Matt is from the Fun and Games and Reignite podcast. Thank you, Matt. Alt gets a nice girthy one from Alt, as has become tradition. Thank you, Alt. Alt says the first level has 2 volcanoes throwing a temper tantrum all over the fucking place, shooting meatballs at you at mock speed. What the fuck? I don't have much to say. I don't jive with shooters, and this honestly looks like a worse R-type. It's something I appreciate as a history lesson for the genre, but Darius is where my horizontal shooter love is. The apples the enemies shoot that are slow are the ones I always run into for some reason. Yeah, that's how it goes. Will I ever beat this game? Probably not. My drive for trying to play shooters, by the way, I say shmups personally, despite people hating that apparently. Yeah, is pretty low. It's a genre I wish I was more into, but the prices and recognizing they're basically all auto scrollers has completely ruined the genre for me. Konami and making hard NES games, man, they were on some shit. Thank you, Alt.
All right, we now have Lucas from Game Over Hell, who tells us, for most of my life, I could never get into horizontal or vertical scrolling shooters until games like Tyrion, pronounced Tyrion, as Ancient DOS Games show host Chris Asic pointed out. Shameless shout out to his show. The Thunder Force series and the Fantasy Zone series helped me learn to appreciate them. I still suck at them, but I'll always be down to trying shooters I never tried before and putting many tries into making it as far as possible in them. Not Gradius, though. I'm sure you'll have wonderful things to say about this classic, which will make for another great episode of RHP, none of which will change my mind. Signed, Resident Gradius Hater.
So many haters.
Oh, man.
All right, next up we have Itsami Ferrario. Vic Viper, I hardly knew her. This was one of my gateways into shmups, going solely off the fantastic box art. I was still a bit young to experience this in arcade at the time, but when it came to NES, I was there like swimwear. I ended up adoring its spin-off, Salamander, more, or Life Force. But man, was Konami firing on all cylinders at this time. Shoot the core! Thank you, Ferrario.
Very nice. So not everyone's a hater. I love that. All right. So we have heard from our patrons. Thank you, patrons. Apparently, you're pretty hostile towards Gradius here. All right. But what do we think? Are we as hostile as the patrons, or will we look upon this game glowingly? As is tradition, myself and Shane will go first and leave our guests to have the final word on whether or not we believe this game holds up today. So I'll go ahead and get started here. And I think, yeah, I really like Gradius. I had a good time with it. Do I think you need an NES advantage or a turbo function? I think it makes this game a lot more playable to someone who may not be as well acquainted with shooters or shmups. And so that's how I play it. And I always have a good time every single time I play it. I thoroughly enjoy myself. I constantly hit the reset button as soon as I die so I can, make my run better every single time and just try to memorize the enemy pattern recognition and then just get so upset with myself every single time I lose that one life and realize, well, it's time to start over again. But that's kind of the appeal of this era of gaming. And I fully recognize it's not for everybody. So if what I said just now sounds like a painful experience for you, then you're probably not going to have a good time. And a lot of the time, I don't have a good time with those type of games either. But there's something about Gradius, the way it still holds up visually. I still think it controls really well. I think it's funny that there's enemies that look like shriveled up testicles with arms. I think that's funny. But at the end of the day, I think it still really holds up. I think it's a very well performing playing game, and I'll go back to it as long as I have an opportunity to, and it strikes my fancy. So yes, Gradius is a game that holds up for me. Shane.
I I'm one of those people where this is a painful experience. And I mean, listen, man. Okay, yeah, it's like a 15 to 17 minute game, assuming that you're not slamming your head against it constantly. Like, I don't know. Actually, no, that's not true. I do know. I was going to say I don't know how anybody could like reasonably play this game legitimately on original hardware and actually finish it, but I do know, and it's what I was saying earlier with things like Turtles in Time or Contra 3. It is being young and having an abundance of time and patience and a conversely less abundant number of games to play. When you only have like, half a dozen games to your name, you get real good at the ones that you have. And that's kind of what happened with me and those games. And so I can see it. Like, I can see how it's like riding a bike, to a certain extent. Like, once you've got it, you've got it. It's the same thing with me in Contra 3. I can see it here, but this was not one that I did that with. And so 40-year-old me now is like, well, this volcano just fucked my shit. And I feel like I've kind of already got an idea of what the rest of the other like 12 minutes of this game are. So I think I'm good. So I don't know, man. Like, is it historically important? Absolutely. Absolutely. Without question. Are there other games that you could spend your time playing now that benefit, for the record, that benefit from Gradius, like even existing in the first place? I will give it its flowers there. Absolutely. But yeah, there are a lot better shooters that you could be. I mean, there are better shooters on the same platform, like the one that we probably all kind of wanted to talk about instead and kept having to redirect ourselves the entire episode. But I mean, so not really. I mean, unless you're in it for like the historicity of it, or you are that kind of person that gets reeled down with just like trying and trying and trying again and getting those patterns down, then more power to you. But nope. I feel like this one's a pass for me.
All right. So a rare disagreement between myself and Shane. You don't normally hear that. That's a no for Shane. Not totally shocked. I understand. Kiyoshi, how about yourself?
So this one's a little complicated for me because I don't have as much of a history with it as with a lot of other shooters that I really love. I do think it's a good game. I don't, I wouldn't ever say this is bad and you should never try it. In fact, I think that people who want to get into side-scrolling shooters should play this game, honestly. I think they should play this one and they should play Life Force to start because the difficulty is relatively mild. It's not going to completely beat your ass as long as you put the time in, like Shane said. And I think it's good enough to really get you started on the genre. Do I think I would want to go back and return to playing this particular game in the entire pantheon of Konami's shooters? Not really. I think it's a fine game, but I could play any other Gradius game or any Life Force or Salamander game or any Parodius game, and all those games, because they came later than this game, are better than this game. So it's difficult to say. I'm also really into graphics, and this game doesn't really do, like the NES version in particular, doesn't really do it for me as much as, say, the arcade game. So if I was going to go back to Gradius, I might actually choose to go back to Gradius the arcade game instead of Gradius the NES game. But in terms of holding up, there's nothing wrong with this game. It plays well. I think the most, mediocre stage in the game is probably the one that Cris mentioned with the floating testicle monsters, the arms. Like the entire stage is just those guys, even the boss. When the boss music comes on, it's just more of those guys. And I'm just like, that's not amazing. The rest of the stages are great, but that one's not really. So it's kind of a mild yes from me. Does it hold up? I think, like I said, I think people who want to get into side-scrolling shooters should play this game, but everybody else could probably skip it. And especially if you're a graphics whore, definitely skip it. Because there's definitely much nicer looking games, especially if you haven't started back in the 80s on playing, shooters. So it's really up to the person who wants to play it, I think.
So kind of a punt. I respect that. But yeah, thanks. Thank you. And Chris Tang.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of all the things you guys just said. I don't want to repeat myself in that respect too much. But what I can say, give a little background here. I had not played the NES version of this game, or even the arcade version, for a very, very long time. Like, it had been like maybe 20 plus years since I played the NES version. And so it was a game that I used to like when it came out, and I really liked it, and I played the hell out of it. And I didn't go back. I just didn't have the desire to. I knew I liked the game. I thought it was a good game, but really it was a product of its time, and it was a very foundational piece. So when I went back to play it, just for this very podcast, just to make sure that I was not misremembering the games, because I'd just written an article for a magazine that basically was like, okay, well, why do games age poorly? And I talked about that, and I'm like, okay, well, Gradius, will it age poorly when I hold it in such high regard? So I replay it. I play through the game, blow through it, beat. I play through it, I blow through the game and beat it a second time on loop 2, which is exponentially harder than the first time around. And I don't die. I don't use save states. I don't use the Konami code. And I just trashed it like it was nothing. And I had not played this game for 20 years. And I was like, I surprised myself. I'm like, how did I do that? I had not played this game. This is not muscle memory. This is not like riding a bike, because it's just like, that's just been so long. But when I thought about it some more, I realized that because I played this game when I was 10 years old and beat the crap out of it back then, it was the founding building block of a lot of my video gaming skills. And I went on to win a lot of really important tournaments and a really lot of big esports things because this game respected my skill. Certain games didn't do that. Like, if you want to talk about skill disrespect, think about Mario 3 and what they did, insulting all the American players by making the game easier, making Mario take an extra hit for us terrible North American players. Gradius respected my skill and made me a better player. And while I didn't go back to the game because I thought it wasn't as good as Life Force and a lot of the other games that came after it, I respect Gradius and I thank Gradius for giving me those skills. So a lot of people, may play it in frustration and just give up. But had you lived in 1986 when this thing came out and thinking I'm getting like the best arcade port ever because it was an arcade game, with a Famicom shell or a Famicom board and an arcade shell, that made me like it more than I probably should have, but it made me play the game, made me think I had the coolest game ever made in my Nintendo. And it was, for that brief moment in time, that 6 months or whatever, until Life Force came out, it was the best game I had. And it built who I am, and I can't discount that. I can't take that away from it. And even though I like Life Force a whole lot more, and we should be talking about that game instead, I am, going to give Gradius its credit for being one of the greatest games of all time, and I still love it for that to this day. And maybe, new players might not need to play it, but if you love video games and you love video game history, I think you owe it to yourself to give it a try.
All right. So, I said it was a punt, Kiyoshi. I do apologize. It wasn't a punt because you did say you need to start with this game. I don't know why I said it was a punt. But there you go. You have 3 people to say you should play this game. I'll take that as 3 people saying it holds up, with Shane sitting on the outside saying no. So there it is.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll talk about Life Force next time we have us all together. How about that?
Nice. Destroy them all.
Love
I think
it.
we should talk about the Salamander series. That would be interesting, I think.
Yeah, that works.
Like all of them?
Yeah, there's not that many.
Yeah, I'll put it on the schedule for next year. There you go, listeners. We're talking about Salamander games next year. That's
I
what's
hope I'm
happening.
included in that.
You definitely will be. You're more than welcome to come back. And speaking of which, thank you both, Kiyoshi and Chris Tang, for stopping by. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and joining us. Had a great time picking your brain. A lot of informative information on this episode. It's been a blast having you. So yeah, thanks.
It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. I always enjoy being on here.
So let's go ahead and get to the pitches here about where people can find you on the internet and your stuff. Anyone have a preference of who wants to go first here?
Well, we're both kind of in the same spot. So
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
true.
much.
Hey, Chris, you want to pitch it, Chris?
We have a game right now coming out, tentatively called Strike Blazinger. It is a spiritual successor to, I would say, Space Harrier, rail shooters. It's going to have some Gradius type influences in it. Like I said, the power-up system kind of has, it's like an improvement on it. You kind of hold down the button and charge up the meter, and then when you release it, you can purchase whatever you want. And you can also swap things in and out of that slot, like you can in some of the later Gradius games. But it'll be a good, interesting take on it. I think it's probably going to be something that people will talk about, because we'll take it further than a lot of games have gone in that regard. There's strikeblazinger.com if you want to find out more about it. GameStack did a video on it. Happy Console Gamer did a video on it. Although we haven't had any kind of content released for it lately, because we're just trying to get it done. So we've been a little radio silent, and but it's coming, and it's gonna be really good, and we're making the best that we can. You use everything that we learned about video games and what we love about games to make a successor, kind of like along the lines with what you see with M2 is doing, because we kind of split paths, but we kind of are on the same page when it comes to the kinds of games that we like playing. So, Kiyoshi, you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, any sort of press we can get, or any sort of feedback once we have something together, we'd love it. And I'll share it on the Discord if we have some sort of demo that people can play. Hopefully, look forward to that. I don't know when, because life is complicated, but and this has been taking quite a while to make. But we're trying to do the best we can and trying to make sure it's high quality. So all I can say is look forward to it.
Yeah, we'll be making a big push this year. As for some of the other stuff I'm doing, like there's Old School Gamer magazine. If you pick up issue 50, it's going to have my write-up on Gradius. It's not that long, but it's in there. And I'm also the host for the Tetris World Championships, which is coming up in a couple of months. So if you like watching competitive NES Tetris, then I've been the commentator for it for as long as it's been around. So we're in our 16th year. So I'll keep on doing that. Boom Tetris for you.
Well, once again, thank you so much. So can they find Strike Harbinger can they wishlist that on Steam? Is that a possibility?
We don't have it up yet.
Not yet.
And currently it's called Strike Blazinger, because we had to, there was a copyright thing that we had to adjust, but then we noticed that there's just a lot of problems with people titling their games lately. So we might change it again later, but we're not completely sure. But for now, it's called Strike Blazinger.
Sorry about that. I was looking through YouTube to find the old videos.
There's old videos.
It used to be called Harbinger. Yeah.
So keep your eyes peeled for Strike Blazinger. If you're in the Discord, you might be able to get that early access to the demo, depending on when things are ready. So keep your eyes peeled and support these guys, and keep the indie game scene going, especially ones that are inspired by retro gaming. So look forward to that. And we'll be picking it up as soon as it launches. Look forward to it, guys. Thank you.
Well, thanks again for having us on, and remember to shoot the core.
Destroy them all.
Next year, we'll destroy them all. All right, Shane, let's wrap up.
My cue?
Yeah.
My cue? Oh, my God.
Like a Life Force Cedius episode.
What? Yeah. All right. Lizard. Anyway, so
Amphibian.
Yeah, as far as we are concerned, you found us. Hello. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and you may be absolutely chuffed to know that we have so many other ones for you. Now, don't let the feed fool you, because it will tell you that there are 300 episodes, but nay, I say there are more than that. And actually, I'm not sure, because I'm not looking at it right now. This one might be it. I don't think so. I think it's close, but we are just a couple episodes away from release number 400 to the feed. So if you want to go back that far, which is a dubious decision, but if you want to do it, you can head to our website and find it all there. And you might be thinking, where can I find that? Well, I'm glad you asked. Everything is at our link tree. So just head over there. It's linktr.ee/retro hangover. And you will find that, as well as our Patreon and our merch store. Should you wish, I'm turning into Sean Connery now. This is what happens when it gets late. Should you wish to support the show in this fashion, then you can do that. We also do have our YouTube and our Twitch channels, which I think we're changing up things a little bit at the time of this recording to where we traditionally have been streaming every single Sunday, and I think we'll probably be shifting that around a little bit. Maybe be getting a little more surprise streams in there. Chris might be shifting to like Friday nights. Who knows? Things are up in the air. It's, the only constant is change. So
Yes.
You gotta keep up with it. But at any rate, that's all our stuff. And so with all of that now having been said, until the next time,
Play with your optional joysticks.
So Chris, would you mind giving the fine folks at home a brief history of Gradius?
Which Chris? Me?
No.
I mean,
No, host Chris. Shane here with a quick message. The one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this. It has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee. And Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.